Reza Shah Pahlavi was the Shah of Iran from the 15th of December 1925 until he was forced to abdicate by the Anglo-Soviet invasion of Iran on the 16th of September 1941. 4 years after conducting a coup against the pro-British government, the 1921 Persian coup d'etat. In 1923, Reza Pahlavi was selected as the Iran's Prime Minister by the National Assembly of Iran. In 1925, Reza Pahlavi was appointed as the legal monarch of Iran by decision of Iran's Constituent Assembly. The assembly deposed Ahmad Shah Qajar, the last Shah of the Qajar dynasty, and selected Reza Shah and Pahlavi dynasty instead, by amending the Iran's 1906 constitution. Reza Shah was the first democratically elected monarch of Iran. He founded the Pahlavi dynasty. He established a constitutional monarchy that lasted until overthrown in 1979 during the Iranian Revolution. Reza Shah introduced many social, economic, and political reforms during his reign, ultimately laying the foundation of the modern Iranian state. His legacy remains controversial to this day. His defenders assert that he was an essential modernizing force for Iran, while his detractors assert that his reign was often despotic, with his failure to modernize Iran's large peasant population eventually sowing the seeds for the Iranian Revolution. Moreover, his insistence on ethnic nationalism and cultural unitarism along with forced detribalization and sedentarization resulted in suppression of several ethnic and social groups. Early life. Reza Shah Pahlavi was born in the village of Alasht in Savadkou County, Mazandaran Province, in 1878, to Major Abbas Ali Khan and Nushafiran Arnlu. His mother was a Muslim Georgian immigrant, whose family had emigrated to mainland Persia after Persia was forced to cede all of its territories in the Caucasus following the Russo-Persian War several decades prior to Reza Shah's birth. His father was commissioned in the 7th Savadkou Regiment, and served in the Anglo-Persian War in 1856. Abbas Ali Khan died suddenly on the 26th of November 1878. Reza was barely 8 months old. Upon his father's death, Reza's mother moved with Reza to her brother's house in Tehran. She remarried in 1879 and left Reza to the care of his uncle. His uncle in turn sent Reza to a family friend, Amir Tuman Kazim Khan, an officer in the Persian army. When Reza was 16 years old, he joined the Persian Cossack Brigade. In 1903, he is reported to have been guard and servant to the Dutch Consul General Fritz Nobel. Reza was 25 years old then. In 1925, Moritz Wagenvoort, a friend of Nobel, wrote, "Was the present autocrat the same person as the one I once spoke to in the Babis circle of Hadjiakon when he was Golem of the Netherlands, ambassador in Tehran? I remember he appeared to me most eager to learn about the Western political situation, and I shall never forget the expression of disillusion on his face when, in answer to his question, 'What? Aren't the elected people's representatives the most intelligent men of the nation?' I replied, 'Not a bit of it. Perhaps they are just a trifle above your average, everyday folk.' He continued, 'And the ministers then? They are somewhat brighter, but not always.' He also served in the Iranian army, where he gained the rank of gunnery sergeant under Qajar Prince Abdul Hossein Mirza Farmanfarmer's command. In 1911, he gave a good account of himself in later campaigns and was promoted to first lieutenant. His proficiency in handling machine guns elevated him to the rank equivalent to captain in 1912. By 1915 he was promoted to the rank of colonel. His record of military service eventually led him to a commission as a brigadier general in the Persian Cossack Brigade. He was the last commanding officer of the brigade, and the only Iranian commander in its history. Succeeding to this position the Russian colonel Vsevolod Staroselsky, whom Reza Khan had helped, in 1918, take over the brigade. He was also one of the last individuals to become an officer of the Nation-e-Agdars prior to the collapse of the Qajar dynasty in 1925. Rise to power. 1921 coup. In the aftermath of the Russian Revolution, Persia had become a battleground. In 1917, Britain used Iran as the springboard for an attack into Russia in an unsuccessful attempt to reverse the revolution. The Soviet Union responded by annexing portions of northern Persia, creating the Persian Soviet Socialist Republic. The Soviets extracted ever more humiliating concessions from the Qajar government, whose ministers Ahmad Shah was often unable to control. By 1920, the government had lost virtually all power outside its capital. British and Soviet forces exercised control over most of the Iranian mainland. In late 1920, the Soviets in Rasht prepared to march on Tehran with a guerrilla force of 1,500 Jangalis, Kurds, Armenians, and Azerbaijanis, reinforced by the Soviet Red Army. This, along with various other unrest in the country, created an acute political crisis in the capital. On 14 January 1921, the British General Ironside chose to promote Reza Khan, who had been leading the Tabriz battalion, to lead the entire brigade. About a month later, under British direction, Reza Khan led his 3,000–4,000 strong detachment of the Cossack Brigade based in Nearak, Kazvan and Hamadan to Tehran and seized the capital. He forced the dissolution of the previous government and demanded that Sayyid Ziauddin Tabatabai be appointed Prime Minister. Reza Khan's first role in the new government was as commander of the Iranian army, which he combined with the post of Minister of War. He took the title Sardar Sepa, or Commander-in-Chief of the army, by which he was known until he became Shah. While Reza Khan and his Cossack brigade secured Tehran, the Persian envoy in Moscow negotiated a treaty with the Bolsheviks for the removal of Soviet troops from Persia. Article 4 of the Russo-Persian Treaty of Friendship allowed the Soviets to invade and occupy Persia, should they believe foreign troops were using it as a staging area for an invasion of Soviet territory. As Soviets interpreted the treaty, they could invade should events in Persia prove threatening to Soviet national security. This treaty would cause enormous tension between the two nations until the Anglo-Soviet invasion of Iran. The coup d'état of 1921 was partially assisted by the British government, which wished to halt the Bolsheviks' penetration of Iran, particularly because of the threat it posed to the British possessions in India. It is thought that British provided ammunition, supplies and pay for Reza's troops. On 8 June 1932, a British embassy report states that the British were interested in helping Reza Shah create a centralizing power. The commander of the British forces in Iran, General Edmund Ironside, gave a situation report to the British War Office saying that a capable Persian officer was in command of the Cossacks and this would solve many difficulties and enable us to depart in peace and honor. Reza Khan spent the rest of 1921 securing Iran's interior, responding to a number of revolts that erupted against the new government. Among the greatest threats to the new administration were the Persian Soviet Socialist Republic, which had been established in Gilan, and the Kurds of Khorasan. Overthrow of the Qajar dynasty. By 1923, Reza Khan had largely succeeded in securing Iran's interior from any remaining domestic and foreign threats. Upon his return to the capital, he was appointed prime minister, which prompted Ahmad Shah to leave Iran for Europe, where he would remain until his death. It induced the parliament to grant Reza Khan dictatorial powers, who in turn assumed the symbolic and honorific styles of Janab-i Ashraf and Hazrat-i Ashraf on 28 October 1923. He quickly established a political cabinet in Tehran to help organize his plans for modernization and reform. By October 1925, he succeeded in pressuring the Majlis to depose and formally exile Ahmad Shah, and instate him as the next Shah of Iran. Initially, he had planned to declare the country a republic, as his contemporary Kemal Ataturk had done in Turkey, but abandoned the idea in the face of clerical opposition. The Majlis, convening as a constituent assembly, declared him the Shah of Iran on 12 December 1925, pursuant to the Constitution of Iran. 3 days later, on 15 December, he took his imperial oath and thus became the first Shah of the Pahlavi dynasty. At this time he was 47 years old. Reza Shah's coronation took place much later, on 25 April 1926. It was at the time that his son, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, was proclaimed the Crown Prince of Persia, to rule after his father.